Morning all. So today we will just continue with the neural network topic. I hope I'm audible to you guys. Okay. So in last class we mainly discussed about the neural network that mimics the human brain. So your neural network is basically an artificial neuron that consists of inputs, and it has a sum. Some part is also known as adder. Then there are links, and each of these links has particular weight, and weight normally decide what feature is more valuable to define a class. That is more like importance of each of the input features. Then there is activation function. So whole thing you can just represent with the equation of a neuron. Output will be your weight into input plus a bias in general term, right? So your first neuron is given by McCulloch and Pitt. So first neuron is known as McCulloch-Pitt neuron. Okay, so this one is like very basic one. So your activation function, what it does, the neuron fires if it is greater than threshold. So if this is the output, you can also say sum. So output will be actually f of sum. Okay, this is basically sum. Okay, in case of McCulloch-Pitt, they just ignore the bias term. So only part was weight into input, that's the sum. Then activation function takes that sum, then decide. Okay, so output will be 1 or 0. When it will be 1? If the output or the threshold is greater than equal to 0. And it will be, okay, make it 1. Okay, and it will be 0 then less than 1. Okay, that's your basic output, how it fires, how neuron fires. Okay, then we also saw for the MLP, that is multi-layer perceptron. It consists of lots of perceptron. Perceptron is a modified version of McCulloch-Pitt, and in the perceptron normally we have this term bias. In McCulloch-Pitt there was no bias term, but in perceptron they included the bias, but most of the time bias is just 1. Okay, so in your MLP we have 3 types of layer: input, hidden layer, and the output. Topologically we have 2 types of neural networks: feed forward and feedback. So again your feed forward is again 2 types: single layer feed forward without the hidden layer, then multi-layer feed forward network, which is nothing but your MLP. It should have at least one hidden layer. Okay, at least one hidden layer should be there in MLP. Okay, now we talked about the activation function. So I guess you guys at least know some of them. Can you tell me what are the different types of activation function? What activation function does? It just decides which neuron will fire based on the threshold. So if this is the output, activation function will take the weighted sum plus bias. Okay, that's the output for one neuron. So can you tell me what are the different types of activation function? There are many different types of activation function. A very simple type of activation function is your binary step function. Okay, binary step function is basically 0 and 1, and this one is used in your McCulloch pit neuron. So here activation function will give you the output 1 if x is greater than equal to 0, and it will give you 0 if x less than 0. Okay, this is one type, and graph looks like something this. Suppose this is 1 and this is 0, so it will be just 0. Okay, this is known as step function. Another name is the Heaviside step. Heaviside step. Same name. Binary step function or the Heaviside step is the same name. Okay. Then we have another function which is your linear function. Linear activation function. So this is also kind of binary step function, but here the function is just simple a of x. Okay, it's more like your line. So your graph becomes like this. Okay, so here your activation function is proportional to the input. So the variable a in this case can be any constant value. Okay, so activation function is just proportional to your input, and this is just any constant value. Okay, so since it's just normal input, it can look like this, it can also look like this, and anything. Okay, it's just constant. Then the more popular activation functions are this one, sigmoid. Okay, sigmoid or logistics. In some places you will also known as at logistic. What sigmoid function does, its equation is 1 divided by 1 plus e power minus x. So this is one of the most widely used nonlinear activation function. Okay, your binary and the linear one, these are all linear activation function. But sigmoid, then tanh, ReLU, those are all your nonlinear activation function. So this is your nonlinear. So what it does, it just transforms your value in the range 0 and 1. So whatever input value you put, it will just give you the output in the range of 0 and 1. So its graph looks like something. It looks like S, just a sigmoid function. Okay. So it is a nonlinear function. That means when we have multiple neurons having sigmoid function as the activation function, the output will be nonlinear too. Okay, this nature is nonlinear. So whatever output you will get, those will be also nonlinear type. Okay. So from the graph, I didn't put it means properly. If you see the range, you can see any of the book, or you can even Google. So most of the times, the significant gradient values lies only within like -3 to +3. Okay, but after that range, your graph is more like flat one. Okay, all the changes happens in this range only. After that, it's more like flat. That means the gradient values approaches to your 0. That means after this part, your network is not learning. Okay, this is just flat curve. It is not learning at all. So it's like a saturation point after this one. Okay, so therefore sometimes because of this problem, because after some range your network stop learning, we try to avoid this one. It's a problem, but it's not like we cannot use it. It's just one of the disadvantage of your sigmoid function, yet it is one of the popular function. Okay, then another one is your tanh. Tanh is also known as your hyperbolic tangent. Okay, tanh function. Tanh function is like more like sigmoid. It is another variation of sigmoid function, just that the range here is from -1 to 1. Okay, so it bounds the output value within the range -1 to 1. So this function you can also represent it like 10x y of your sigmoid plus, sorry, this minus 1. Okay, another way of representing this is that 2, 1 plus e power minus twice x, then minus 1. Okay, so graph for tanh function will be just like sigmoid, just that range from -1 to 1. Okay, this is your bipolar sigmoid function. Another name you can see somewhere is the bipolar sigmoid. Bipolar sigmoid. So just that its range is from -1 to 1, but rest of the nature is like just similar to your sigmoid function. Okay. The value is continuous and differentiable, and it's also has the same problem that after one range it stops learning. Okay, same problem like sigmoid. Sometimes your 10H activation is preferred over your sigmoid function because it is zero centered at the gradient. Okay, it is zero centered. Therefore, sometimes 10H is preferred over your sigmoid function. Okay. Another very popular one nowadays, which is with both in neural network and the deep learning, is the ReLU, which is rectified linear unit. So ReLU is the one of the nonlinear activation function, and it is more popular in your deep learning sections. Okay, and it is very simple function. Okay, the main advantage of ReLU is that it does not activate all the neurons at the same time. In rest, like sigmoid and 10H, it just activate all the neurons. It might just activate all the neurons together at the same time. It makes the learning a bit slow, but here ReLU never activate all the neurons at the same time. That means the neurons will only be deactivated if the output of the linear transformation is less than 0. So the main equation here is fx equal to max of 0 and x. Okay. So if you see the graph here, it looks like this. This and this. Okay. So for the negative input values, the result is 0. Okay. That means the neurons does not get activated. So your input values can be both positive and negative. So it can say that positive inputs has more significant, positive values are more significant than the negative values. Therefore, if you input any negative, it finds any negative input values, it will just round it up to the 0. Okay. Therefore, only a certain number of neurons are activated. But in case of sigmoid and especially in 10H, both positive and negative input values are activated. So ReLU is more computationally efficient compared to your sigmoid and 10H. So in simple way, you can represent it like fx output will be like 1 if x greater than equal to 0 and 0 if x less than 0. Okay, so all negative, if you find any negative value, it will just turn up to 0. Okay, but ReLU also has some little disadvantage. So if you see the negative side of the graph, it will see that the negative gradients are almost 0. That means what? During the training of your MLP, the weights and the biases of some neurons are not updated. Okay, since it just make all the negative values to the 0, sometimes it might be like you need some of the negative values as well. So it has that type of disadvantage. So to overcome this problem, we have again different types of value. Uh, Different types of values mainly used for your deep learning. I'm just giving you the names. Maybe in future it will be helpful for you guys. One is leaky value. That means it just allow you a part of negative gradients. So equation becomes like 0.01 x less than 0, and it will be x if x greater than equal to 0. Okay, it just allow a little bit of negative values. So equation or graph can be like this one is same, this might come a little bit lower down. Okay, it will allow a little portion of negative values. That's your leaky value. Then we have another parameterized value and so many different other types of value. Okay, these are yours to research on it if you want to know more about value. Then another very popular one is the softmax. Softmax is again mainly used for your deep learning, but this particular is mainly used in your output layer when you need to provide any classification details. Okay, whenever you want to do any classification problem in the output layer, it's more like we use softmax. Okay, so it is like combination of multiple sigmoids. Okay, so we know that sigmoid function just values between 0 and 1, which we can treat as the probability of a data point belonging to a particular class. Okay, so sigmoid is like most widely used for binary classification. Okay, sigmoid is most of the times we use for binary classification because it just gives the range between 0 to 1. Okay, and softmax functions, softmax mainly used for multiple or multi-class. What is the multi-class? You can also use it for binary classification, not a problem. But if you are doing like multi-class problem, like you have 10 classes, 12 classes, so most of the times we use the softmax. Okay, so equation here is a bit different. E of z equal to g summation of k equal to 1 k for g and k for g equal to 1 up to k. So softmax will give you the probability of the classes. So when if you have a like multi-class problem, then the output layer should have as many neurons as the number of classes in the target. Okay, so for example, you have 10 classes. This is the problem that you need to classify 10 classes. So in the output layer also, same number of output neurons should be there. Output neuron will be also 10. Okay, so you can say the number of target class is equivalent to number of output neurons. Okay, remember this concept. So if you have pre-class, then you will have pre-neurons at the output layer. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am, can you repeat that line?
This line, I said your number of target class should be equivalent to the number of neurons in the output layer. In MLP, how many layers? Input layer, hidden layer, and the output neuron layer, right? So output layer mainly decides the class of your particular thing. Means if you are classifying or identifying three types of objects, that means you have three classes. Then in the output layer also there will be three neurons. Okay. Target class equal to output neuron in output layer, or you can just put neurons in the output layer. Okay. So see, we have so many different types of activation functions. Now the question is, which one is better? How we can select the right activation function? Okay, but there is no such rule. There is nothing like this one is good or this one is bad. It will mainly depend on your application, and actually there is no rule of thumb. You just try different methods, then see which one is good for you. Okay. But before doing that, you might have some points in your mind, like sigmoid function and their combination generally work better in case of classifiers. Okay, so sigmoids and 10x functions are again sometimes avoided because of your vanishing gradient problem. In the graph you have seen, after some range, the curve is just flattened, means network is not learning. That problem is called vanishing gradient problem. Vanishing gradient problem. You will see this in both sigmoid and 10H. Okay, after one range, it stops learning. So even though sigmoid and 10H generally works better in most of the classifiers, but in sometimes, like in some cases, we avoid it because of this vanishing gradient problem. So ReLU function is the general activation function and is used in most of the cases nowadays. Okay, so I would suggest, if you go for the ReLU, you will get good results without having any much of side effects. Okay, so again, if you encounter a case of dead neurons in your network, like in ReLU also, it just sums up all the negative values to the zero. So some neurons might be not updated at all during its learning process. So it has a problem. In that case, you can use leaky ReLU. Okay, so if you encounter any case of dead neurons, then you can just go for the leaky ReLU, which will be the best search. So anyways, ReLU is one of the general one, you can use it. But remember, ReLU should be always used in the hidden layers, not in the output. Okay, only for hidden layers. Each layer or each neuron will use an activation function, right? So ReLU is useful only for your hidden layers. Okay, for the output layer, you can go for sigmoid, you can go for 10H, and you can go for softmax if you have multiclass. In binary also, you can go for softmax, not a problem. But if you have multiclass problem, then softmax will be more useful than sigmoid and 10H. But ReLU, you always keep it in the hidden layer. Okay. So these are all types of activation function. So what if we do not use any activation function at all for the neural network? In that case, it will be just like your regression model because there is no activation function. That means you are just transferring the values of weighted sum of the inputs and bias to the next neuron. It's like transferring new linear values from one layer to another. Okay, it's more like regression. Okay, so activation function is the most important element for the neural network or deep learning. Okay, now thing is how your network learns. Okay, how your network learns. There are many different types of learning rules or learning way for the neural network. Okay, any guesses? You know, backpropagation is one of the very known. You might aware of the term already. So with the help of backpropagation, your multilayer neural network or your ANN learns how to classify things. Okay, so backpropagation neural network is also known as your BPN. That means backpropagation neural network. But apart from backpropagation, we have also different types of neural learning process. Any guesses? Okay, I just tell. So there are many learning rules. It is an act of feedback. It's not exactly feedback. It's not used for feedback network. Feedbacks are like recurrent neural network and all. Backpropagation is that you just uh, move backward. It has three steps. One is forward pass, one is backward pass. Okay, this is more like backward pass, not feedback. Okay, I'll come to this part. Just note there are different learning rule. One is your just at least know the names. One is Hebbian learning. Okay, Hebbian learning is given by Donald Hebb. So it is basically an unsupervised learning. This is the most primary learning rule or the very primitive learning rule. So it is an unsupervised learning rule, and this accepts that if the neighboring neurons are activated and deactivated simultaneously, then the weights associated with these neurons will also increase. Okay, so it's basically depends on the neighboring neurons. It's saying if two neighboring neurons are activated or deactivated simultaneously, then the weights those are associated with those neurons will also increase. Okay, so this is mainly for the weight updation. Okay, then we also have perceptron learning. Perceptron learning. Perceptron learning is for your just one neuron the particular one neuron perceptron learning. It is also weight updation rule. Then we have the delta rule. Delta learning rule is most widely used, which is also known as your gradient descent, mainly used the gradient descent. And delta rule there we have a generalized delta rule, which is nothing but your backpropagation. So backpropagation is also known as your delta rule or generalized delta rule. So both thing is just same, just that for the delta learning, we only update the value in the output layer. In generalized delta rule, all weight update happens also inside your hidden neurons. Okay. Fourth one is correlation. Then again we have one outstar. Okay. So in perceptron learning, main weight update is done like if weight old is equal to, weight new will be weight old plus t and x. So x is your input and t is your target. Okay. So this is like if you have two classes, then if t not equal to k, then we update the rules. Okay. So these learning rules are nothing but your training process, how your neural network learns. You have to give training, right? And based on the training, it will learn something. So what happens in your MLP or so suppose this is your input. These are your hidden layers. And this is your output layer. So this is your hidden portion. There are two hidden layers. Okay. This is your output. And these are your input. Okay. The general training process of your neural network is that it consists of three things. One is forward pass. Okay. Then you have error check. Then you have backward pass. So these are the main steps of your backpropagation thing. Okay. Forward means it's also known as your feed forward. So what it does, see, these are just input. So you are sending input to first hidden layer, correct? So each of this input will have some weights, correct? So each of this input will have some weights associated with it. So inside the hidden layer, if this is just the neuron, just remember it works the same way. If this is the neuron, it will first check the sum. Okay, then it will use an activation function and will provide the output. So this function, each of this neuron will perform the same thing. It will calculate the weighted sum, then it will apply the activation function, and based on the activation function, the neuron will either fire or it will not fire. Okay, so whatever output will be for one particular neuron, it will be again sent back to neurons of the next layer as an input. Okay, the output of one neuron is sent as the input to the neuron of the next layer. So same thing repeats again. Okay, same thing repeats again. Again, same, it will provide output and go. Then finally, it will get an output. Okay, each neuron will get a particular output. Maybe it will have some particular probability values. Okay, suppose you have 3 classes, so 3 neurons are here. Okay, suppose your problem at hand is with 3 class. You need to classify 3 things. So in the output layer also there should be 3 neurons. Okay, now I guess it's more clear. You need to classify 3 things, maybe orange, apple, and banana. Then you have 3 neurons. Each of this neuron will specify the probability values for one class. Okay. So now, since it's a supervised learning, backpropagation is supervised one. So that means you already have a label. That means you already know the target. Okay, then after first training, after means when you complete one whole training, means all the passes, then it is called one epoch. Means once you get through all the data sets in your database, then it is called one epoch. So maybe after one epoch you get some expected some output, you receive some output, but since it's just learning now, there will be an error. Okay, this error is nothing but your target minus your output. Okay, the output you got and the target value. Okay, so initially this error will be very high. Okay, because it just started learning. So initially this error will be very high. So what you will do, you will send this error back to each of the layers. That is your backward pass. Okay, that means you pass the error. Okay, so when you pass the error, again each of the neurons will check how much amount of change you need to do to reduce the error. So main aim of your neural network is to reduce the error or optimize the error. It will always try to reduce the error, means your calculated output should be as close to your target output. Okay, this is your error reducing part. Okay, so when you pass this error to each of the neurons back, okay, you calculated the error first, then you calculate error target minus your calculated output, so that error will be get back to each of the neuron again. Okay, again based on that error value, each of this neuron will update its parameters. So main parameters are that should be updated is the weight and the bias. Okay, we always initialize weight and bias as 0. Initially, maybe we can just initialize this to 0 or 1. Okay, then after first epoch, it will get the error, then it will send back to each of the hidden neurons. Then each of the neurons again will update its weight. Okay, so up till the backward pass will go up till the first hidden layer. Okay, then again it will update, then again it will calculate one output and will again feed forward the same thing. Then in the next epoch, you will get another output. Okay, then again you will check how much is the error. Then again maybe error is too high, it will again send back it to the hidden layer. So it's a cycle of forward pass and backward pass. So each time in each epoch, you calculate the error, which is target minus your calculated output. Then you send back to the each of the neurons. Then again, you calculate the error. So this process will continue unless the error is just minimum or just the null. Okay, that's the main concept of your backpropagation. Okay, so trainable things in your neural network is the weight and the bias. Okay, so it has a like long mathematical thing. I guess I also already have a video on that. I can give you the link. You can check that out. Okay. So by the concept, this is the thing. So apart from that, another thing is the learning rate. Okay. So error correction here can be again different types. The very simple one is the MSE, mean square error, which is half of summation target minus output square. Okay, this is the basic error or loss function. Another word is the loss function. Okay, loss function we calculate. Okay, then this error is sent back there. Then we update the weight, like weight new will be weight old, means you calculate it first, then it will be delta W. This is the gradient derivative of your error. So if you represent it as E, then you will calculate delta E of